It's no secret that without sponsors or some sort of stream of cash, any racing team from dirt ovals up to Formula 1 wouldn't be able to function. And while some teams can secure money from people like Hewlett-Packard or JCB or tobacco companies in the past, some teams end up signing big money deals that just, well, there is no money. So here is the story of some sponsors who were just flat out dodgy, or some who didn't pay up. Because they couldn't. So first up, we've got Moneytron. Now Moneytron was something set up in the 1980s, and let's be honest, that name gave it away. Moneytron was the brainchild of Dr. Marvin Monroe lookalike of the year, Jean-Pierre Van Rossum, a Belgian entrepreneur. Now Van Rossum was an economics student at the University of Ghent in Belgium, and he went on to study under Lawrence Klein, who was using computers to predict the stock market. And then he went to prison for fraud. But when he was released from prison, he set up Moneytron, which was an investment firm that used a supercomputer to predict market fluctuations. But the whole thing was a scam. It was all a Ponzi scheme. He received millions from Europe's wealthy elite, including the Belgian royal family, and was doing the usual Ponzi scheme stuff of using new investors to pay off the old ones, and also finance his own lifestyle, which included a $4 million yacht, the Onyx Formula 1 team, and over 100 Ferraris. Needless to say, he went back to prison for fraud. However, because he'd been elected to the Belgian parliament, he had diplomatic immunity, so the sentence was delayed until 1995. And his big policy in parliament, because being a Marxist, it was to make everybody rich and abolish the royal family and marriage. I mean, I'm pretty socially liberal, but fucking hell. Next up, we've got Prince Malik Ado Ibrahim, better known as the Tminus Guy. Arrows was a team that was always around, but only had flashes of brilliance. They never really achieved anything, really, did they? The only thing going for them is that they often had one of the best looking Formula 1 cars on the grid, but Formula 1 is a sport where you have to build the fastest car within the given regulations. It's not an aesthetic competition. There are no prizes for looking good, which works in my favour. I mean, look at me. Arrows was always in some sort of financial quandary, and by the point this story takes place, Arrows have been in Formula 1 for over 20 years, and this is just 2 years after Damon Hill almost won the 1997 Hungarian Grand Prix. Arrows had also spent big on signing Damon Hill, who was the reigning world champion at the time, but that didn't help things. Ibrahim was born in Nigeria, but he was educated in England. He also claimed to be a prince, which could be true because there are about, 70 or 80 royal families in Nigeria? But imagine Prince William turning up at the gates of Williams and promising them money. Actually, that would be a good idea. Prince William's Grand Prix engineering. The prince also claimed he'd raced at Le Mans, and then promised them $125 million, and that would have given them something in the region of about the 4th best budget on the grid. At the time, McLaren and Ferrari had about $250 million to spend, while Jordan had a budget of about $60 million. BAR had about the same budget as McLaren and Ferrari, and they flopped. Bigly. With $125 million, Arrows could have got better drivers, better engines, and hired some of the best guys in the business to design the car. Walkinshaw accepted the offer, and then managed to convince Morgan Grenfell, a British investment bank, to pony up some cash. The Tminus brand that the Prince set up was, essentially, an energy drink, but they were also dabbling in selling rebranded motorcycles and setting up a clothing line. The drink actually existed, and some journalists still have the free can that they were given. It just made no money whatsoever. And then the Prince disappeared when the September deadline to complete the purchase of the team came and went. And then Morgan Grenfell took Arrows to court. Arrows lost, and they never recovered. But in 2008, Malik reappeared. He was arrested in the United States for stealing money lent to him to help promote a NASCAR driver. He was cleared of the embezzlement charges, but was still held in a Texas jail because he couldn't pony up the $35,000 bail. And then he was arrested again in 2012 for embezzling money while still on probation. He now lives in Nigeria, where he's working in green energy. Speaking of energy, here's one that's a bit more recent. Rich Energy. Oh god, we all had fun with this one during last year, didn't we? I think I made more money off Rich Energy than Rich Energy made money off Rich Energy. ZZ Top stand-in William Story suddenly appeared in Formula 1 in 2019, backing the Haas team with his brand, Rich Energy. There were almost weekly breakdowns on Twitter, claims of denying the brand's existence was like denying that Armstrong walked on the moon, and creating a massive black hole that all credibility and respect just gravitated into. Rich Energy was marketed as being a premium energy drink brand that would be primarily sold in upmarket bars, pubs and clubs because, let's face it, when you're out on the piss, the first thing you go for is an energy drink, not like a nice cold pint, maybe. People all around the world ask the same question. Where can I get this stuff? Have you ever seen a can of Rich Energy? I haven't. Unless you go on Amazon, in which case you can buy 3 for $4.99. But for the curious, Chris Harris did the taste test that we were all waiting for. He took one sip of the drink and just said, "It's just Red Bull." The brand that prided itself on being better than Red Bull was just Red Bull. You ever been to a trade show at the NEC or something like that and been given like the knockoff energy drink in a branded can that's just the brand of the people at the stall you've just been to? I can only imagine it's like that. Even though the company's listed on Companies House, people who googled the company found they had about £10 in their accounts, while the company itself claimed it had millions in assets. There was also the big lawsuit between them and White Bikes over the use of the logo, and then the massive power struggle between Story and the shareholders. All 4 of them. That were in his head. Now it's rumoured that Rich Energy first approached the Williams team before they took on sponsorship from Rocket and Orlen, which is probably for the best, really. I've no idea how many I've done, but let's keep on going. Next on the script, Leighton House. In the 80s and into the 90s, Japan appeared in Formula 1 in a big way. Honda was cleaning up with McLaren, there was a slew of Japanese pay drivers all through the 90s, and Japan itself had become the second largest economy in the world behind the United States. Then in 1990, Japanese businessman Akira Akagi, hope I've got the pronunciation right, bought the March team and rebranded it Leighton House, the name of his real estate company. The Adrian Newey designed car powered by a Judd V8 was, well, it wasn't particularly good, but fortunes did improve when they got a surprise podium at the 1990 French Grand Prix, when they decided to not change the tyres on either of the cars. And the team finished 7th in the Constructors' Championship, although they were bumped up to 6th when LaRousse were kicked out after falsely declaring the car that they had designed as their own. It was actually designed by Lola, and it was a clerical oversight, but a lot of people believe that it was to bump Ligier up a spot into 10th so that they'd get their travel subsidies, because Guy Ligier was a massive political man thing. Then in 1991 the team only scored 1 point and finished in 12th place in the Constructors. And then the team was put up for sale because Akagi had been implicated in the Fuji Bank scandal. I'm going to need to read direct from the script for this. Fuji Bank had admitted that an executive at the bank had forged 208 billion yen in loan receipts, which is equivalent to about $2 billion. The bank had also lent money to an Osaka restaurant owner called Nui Onue, who had been arrested in connection with the branch manager that handled her account, who had then forged deposit receipts to give some estimated $2.5 billion worth of loans. Inoue then invested those in stocks. This is on top of another $1.5 billion that they'd loaned her previously. At around the same time, the real estate and stock market prices greatly inflated and the bubble burst in 1992, causing Japan's economy to crash. Akagi was arrested, but not after selling the team to a consortium in late 1991. The team went bust at the end of 1992, and Akagi died in 2018. And to avoid this video dragging out any longer, I've got one more for you. Possibly my favourite. Shannon. Now Shannon is possibly the most mysterious of all these dodgy money people ever to enter Formula 1. They're always referred to as a mysterious entity. And in possibly, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd episode of Storytime, I looked into Shannon and how they actually dealt with 40. And it just uncovered this whole thing that I actually had to do 2 episodes on. In 1996, 40 was strapped for cash, and they were being absolutely mullered by the 107% qualifying rule. At Australia and the Nürburgring, both of those cars had failed to qualify. and only one of the cars started at the Monaco Grand Prix because the other one had smashed it into a wall and there weren't any spare parts. But Guido 40 was offered a lifeline when Shannon Racing approached them to inject him with some cash. Not literally, obviously. Shannon Racing had been in the junior categories, and they appeared legit. They had Tom Christensen on their books, the 9-time Le Mans winner. Shannon was a company that was owned by FinFirst, a company set up in Milan in 1994 by a man who allegedly has ties to the Russian mafia, and also connections with Silvio Berlusconi. Between 1994 and 1996, FinFirst acquired Sokol Helicopters, which at the time of the purchase was owned by the same people who built the Su-27 jet fighter. Shannon had wanted to be in Formula 1 in its own right by 1998, and they'd also been in talks with Minardi. And despite FinFirst being set up in Italy, the whole lot was registered in the Republic of Ireland in Shannon. Hence, the Shannon Group. The owners were under investigation for many, many things, and FinFirst had made all of the purchases of these companies with money that didn't exist. The deal was that Shannon had to provide 40 with the funds within 6 days of signing the contracts, and at the Spanish Grand Prix of 1996, the team turned up, having replaced the yellow, blue and green livery of before with a more Irish flavour. But when the funds didn't materialise in that less than 1 week period, 40 wanted to withdraw from the deal, as he realised that the light at the end of the tunnel for his team was just a freight train heading in the opposite direction. 40 took Shannon to court, and because of the Italian legal system being many confusing, the courts ruled in favour of Shannon, as by the time it had actually gone to court, 40 was facing a $2 million fine for missing the German and French Grand Prix, Cosworth was operating under a no money no engines policy, and the main part being there wasn't a team to fight over anymore. The case was settled just in time for the Italian Grand Prix, but 40 and Shannon had disappeared, along with the F3000 and the F3 teams, and everything else. Gone. So this has been, how many? 5. It is actually 5 of the weirdest and dodgiest sponsors to grace the pinnacle of motorsport. And if I've taught you something new today, give the video a thumb up, and if you want more like this, click subscribe. Massive thanks to the patrons of Patreon who are on your screen right now, and if you wish to support me on a more personal level, or just join in Discord and social media, I'll leave all the links that you need in the description box for you. So until next time, I've been AdmiralLaWind, have a great day wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you all next time for another video. So until then, goodbye.